Morning, everybody. Good morning. What's going on? Tuesday, December 15th, 8 a.m. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Continue to hit on Lakers basketball, NBA basketball, NBA Cup tonight. Lakers don't play for a month. I feel like it's going to be about a month until the next time the Lakers play. So we got a lot to get into today. Of course, always enjoy being here in the morning with you guys. Spend 1 solid hour talking Lakers and NBA basketball. Are you kidding me? How else do I want to start my day? I don't need anything else. That's how I get my day started. A cup of Joe here, a cup of coffee. I'm just looking here. There's tags everywhere, everything. Just a black coffee today. We're not messing around. You know, I got to be honest. I haven't really been eating good the last couple of days. Today, I'm going to try to clean it up a little bit. Try to clean it up. We all go through ups and downs with our food here. Sometimes I'm top notch. You can't touch me. Other times, I can't walk by Trader Joe's without buying 67 items that I don't need. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Thank you for getting us to 34,000 subscribers. Obviously, the next number is 35,000. So if you've yet to subscribe, please feel free to do so. If you're not a member, we're doing a member show this upcoming Friday. Looking forward to that. We'll be chilling with our people, and we'll kind of prep a show coming up for this upcoming Friday morning at 7 a.m. So something to keep in mind if you have interest to be a member. All you got to do is hit join. It's about $3 a month to be a member. Okay, let me give everyone a quick rundown what we got for the show today. We do have a guest today. So because we have a guest, we'll kind of try to go through some of our topics a little bit quicker. And then looking forward to having our guest on a little bit later. It's going to be Pincus from Bleacher Report. Here's what we got going on today. Dalton, Knecht, Thiero going down to the G League. This is a little bit more strategic. Nothing crazy. They're not staying down there. But I got an angle on Dalton, Knecht that I want to spend some time with some people about. It's just kind of disappointing. Disappointing that Dalton, Knecht hasn't really panned out to the player that we all wanted him to be. Still, obviously, a very, very young career for him. But we'll see if he ever has opportunities where he can go back to what he was. You could call it a year ago where he was just shining in the league for a quick second. We'll hit on Dalton, Knecht, Thiero for a quick second, like I mentioned. Building around Luka and Reaves. You know, yesterday I read, and I think maybe it was a little bit more strategic on my part. I didn't spend too much time on a Marc Stein piece that was out there. So Marc Stein had a piece, and I really liked his piece, but it was basically about the Lakers kind of building around Luka and AR and that age group and those two players and go from there. Today, I'll spend a little bit more time on that. If that's the right strategy, if this is just something that the Lakers say because they're supposed to say, but obviously if anything came in regards to a trade for Austin Reaves, then they would abort that mission and go to a different plan. But I do think that piece of his article that he had in his Substack, I think is worth talking about. And I think for a lot of Laker fans here who I think are very opinionated about Austin Reaves, I think we can get some good opinions on that. Pincus, I mentioned from Bleacher Report, is going to be joined in the show. He's phenomenal what he does now that we are in that window. Remember, December 15th, yesterday was a key date in the NBA because anybody that signed, obviously, if you don't have a no trade clause or anything like that, then, or if you have a no trade clause, it's different. But any players that signed in the offseason, move teams in the offseason, they can get traded after December 15th. So that opens up kind of this floodgate of all these different players now that are available to be moved, not just on the Lakers, but just in general. So something to keep in mind in regards to that. We'll get into Pincus. We'll talk about the season so far and get his thoughts of what the Lakers have been able to do so far this season. JJ Redick this season. I want to spend a quick second on that as well. I feel like in the last couple of weeks, there's been more criticism towards JJ Redick. So I think I'm going to try to get a little bit to the bottom of that, how people are feeling about JJ so far this season, what they like, what they don't like, if they feel like he's, no question about it, a perfect coach for the Lakers, or there's still a lot of question marks there. I still think there's some question marks, even though he did get that extension that he got in the offseason. It's throwing extension. People just getting money from every direction out there. So we'll spend a little bit of time on JJ Redick. NBA Cup Finals tonight. We'll talk a little bit about the Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs. Spurs, the second best team in the West. I keep saying this. Nobody's listening. I don't know. They might be. They could very easily be the second best team in the Western Conference. We'll hit on that. Got some NBA news that I'm going to get into. Cooper Flagg drops a 40-plus point game last night, so did something that no 18-year-old has ever done. Rockets and the Denver Nuggets were on last night. I don't know if you guys got a chance to do a couple good games yesterday. Detroit at Boston. My Pistons won yesterday. You like how I just jump around? I have no affinity. And then, like I mentioned, the Rockets and the Nuggets game yesterday. A lot of calls going the Denver Nuggets way. Let me just put it that way. That's our rundown. That's what we got going on for the show today. Let me squeeze in a couple of quick comments here, and then we'll go from there. All right, let's take a look here. Let's see. Ocean Breeze. If you want to be successful, you have to be willing to use every connection you've got. There you go. Little magic quote right there. Tying this directly back to the Lakers. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. All right. JJ ruined my boy Knecht. Okay. Dalton is boxing up all of his stuff in his apartment. Sliwa, watching Denver versus the Rockets got me worried about the Lakers. Well, I'll tell you this. If you're watching, it's good basketball yesterday. And both of those teams, game goes to OT. I think a questionable call that they reviewed at the end that put they called before the inbound, the play was inbounded, the ball was inbounded. There was a foul called on the Rockets on Tim Hardaway Jr. They ended up taking a free throw when Denver was down 1. Then Jokic missed a shot at the buzzer. Just a lot of questionable, iffy calls. But I get what you're saying about, hey, that concerns me about the Lakers when I'm watching those two teams go at it. Look, I mean, the top 4 in the Western Conference, let's take the Lakers out of the top 4 for a second. Let's just say the Lakers are not in the top 4. Or how about this? The top 5 in the West, Lakers are towards the bottom of that list. And if the roster stays the same, then I think it's safe to say that's going to be tough for the Lakers to, obviously navigate and coordinate and everything else. All right. Good comments here so far. Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's keep rolling here. Lakers get every call. Stop complaining. I mean, I'm not even complaining about the Lakers. I was complaining for Houston, for the love of God. I can't complain for another team. Jesus. What's going on with everybody this morning? Relax. It's only Tuesday. Let's get the show started. There was some news yesterday that came out, like I mentioned. Dalton Knecht. Dalton Knecht and Thiero. Sometimes if I check my phone, I'm just making sure to see that the guest is all good. Lakers send Dalton Knecht and Thiero down to the G League. Again, this is not it shouldn't be. Nobody should look at this and be like, oh, that's it. These players suck, or they're Dalton Knecht's not coming back up. Thiero. I mean, obviously Thiero is coming back up. So will Dalton Knecht. Why are the Lakers doing this? It's going to give them an opportunity to get some run. So they got a game coming up against the Clippers. This is going to give them an opportunity, just like I said, just to get some opportunities, to get some run. And that's all it means. But for me, I think this is what stands out more than anything else, to seeing Dalton Knecht's name. And it's not the way we want to see Dalton Knecht's name this year. Look, Thiero was out for most of the season, so he's just trying to work his way back. We all obviously know, just in regards to where the Lakers are sitting right now, tough for Thiero to get some playing time. Now, I would argue that he should get some PT, but that's not what this conversation is about. I think we could save that for another day. But I think the bigger thing for me is seeing Dalton Knecht's name, and it has nothing to do with his success on the basketball floor in Lakers' main games during the regular season. It's been disappointing. I mean, just really, really disappointing. Dalton Knecht kind of had set up this. He set up these expectations last year, and part of it is all our fault as well. And obviously, anytime a player starts performing, he's a young player. We were calling him around this time of the year last season. We were calling Dalton Knecht the steal of the draft. Remember, there were a lot of people out there that were sitting there like, if you're a general manager and if you didn't take Dalton Knecht at number 17, then how do you still have a job? And the Lakers absolutely stole him. And then he had some really nice moments for the Lakers early in last season. And then it's been cricket since then. And then, of course, we know that the Lakers tried to trade him for Mark Williams. That didn't happen. Dalton Knecht came back. And then I remember getting into the summer league and we were talking about Dalton. And the Knecht conversation had a lot to do with, all right, well, he's going to work his way back into the summer league. Let's see if he can kind of, this is going to be the second go around for him. So this is going to be a lot easier for him. There's not going to be many surprises this upcoming season the way there was last year in his rookie season. Kind of crickets. And every time I think Dalton Knecht has gotten some opportunities, unfortunately for him, and this just happens, I think, sometimes with second-year players or guys that don't have maybe the coach doesn't have a ton of confidence in you, but this is what happens with players like Dalton Knecht. They get a little bit of playing time. And if you don't convince that coach in this small window that you have of PT that you're a guy that deserves some consistent playing time, then you're sitting on the pine. You're sitting on the bench. You're probably deep on the bench. And that's what's happened to Dalton Knecht. I don't know if he's going to be able to regain that with the Lakers. I really don't. It sucks because I think the Lakers are so desperate right now for young talent. You go look around the league right now, and I think the teams that are having the most success are young, athletic, can push the ball up and down the floor. There's a lot of strengths to having some talented young players. Thiero, I'm not as worried about. I did say, I mentioned it for a quick second. I do think it would be nice that some of these younger players for the Lakers do get some opportunities. Listen, LeBron is old. There's other players that are on this team that are slow or they're not known for their defensive identity. So why not use some of the younger players? Why not use some of these other, obviously talented players that you have on this roster and just see what you have? Like I was making that same argument for Vando. I was making that same argument last week. You have a team that doesn't play defense. Why don't you use one of your guys that plays defense? You also have a roster that does have players that have some talent, have some athleticism, are young, and at least just kind of try to see if there's some players within what you have that would be beneficial to the obviously through an 82 game grind. But the Knecht one has been that one's kind of been a tough one to swallow because I don't think he's really got any better since last season. And I also don't feel like he's probably going to get the opportunities that he needs with the Lakers in order to show that, hey, I can be a player that you can rely on this upcoming season. So something to keep in mind in regards to Dalton Knecht, but that's where we're sitting today in regards to Dalton Knecht to Thiero. Again, this isn't, oh my gosh, they were sent down to the G League. Are they going to come back up? Yes, they'll be back up. But it's more, I think for me, the Dalton Knecht piece, I think says more just because you were hoping this season he might get some opportunities. And those opportunities, you don't want them to be forced. You want those opportunities to be there strictly because he's a really, really talented player and you think he can help the Lakers roster. That has not been the case so far. Okay, I know we got some comments we're going to get into. I know we're also going to get Eric Pincus on here in just a second. Before we do so, just a quick shout out, Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. So I know I've mentioned this to you guys now for over a year now on YouTube, but certainly I've known him for about 6 years. Just very appreciative to have our partners on the show. Brad Wallace now continues to show his loyalty to the channel. I hope you never need an injury attorney. If you do, I've told you guys before, he's the best in the business, can help anybody in the state of California. Serious injury, wrongful death case, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. So that's the website that you go to, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Go to that website, fill out a free consultation. Certainly he can help point you in the right direction. If I can help in any way, I've told you guys before, send me an email. I'll make you a personal introduction to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. All right, let's keep things rolling here. I do want to bring on our guest. Shout out here to Eric Pincus for making the time. Bleacher Report. Good morning, sir.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Good. One of the few guys I'll wake up at 8 in the morning for.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Yes. What's your give me what's the morning routine usually? In a perfect world where some idiot podcaster like me doesn't ask you to come on, what's it looking like?
Well, I set my alarm every day for 9:30 a.m. And so that's like when I want to wake up. And the thing is, I go to bed around like 2 or something like that. So like I'm getting 8 hours roughly, and would like to take it slow. Usually I start my day anywhere between 11, or if it's like if we're going ideal, give me an extra hour and let me get up at noon. But that's not realistic. But as far as like at my desk, start generating content, figuring out what the hell I got to do in a day, usually around 11 a.m.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really understand that with our world. Our world, you're up super late because of the games. It's funny because Pincus, when I started doing YouTube Monday through Friday, right? So I leave radio and I'm 100% on YouTube. My intention with starting a morning show at 8 a.m. was I wasn't going to do the post-game show anymore. It was like, hey, this will be the show that I do it in. Well, then I realized that, you know what? A lot of people like listening to the post-game show. So then I was just stuck. I'm like, all right, well, not only am I on at 11:30 at night, then I'm also on at 8. So it's all good. We're putting up.
You nap in the day. You got to nap on a day like that in the middle of the day.
We'll make it happen. It's life could be much worse. No complaints here.
Absolutely.
I was just hitting on Dalton connecting to Thiero, and I know there's a lot of topics that we want to hit on. Yesterday was also the first day. We hit December 15th, which is kind of a big day in the NBA when you kind of start talking about some of the different trades, players that can be available. Real quick on Adu and Dalton Connect. It's not a shocker. They're going to go get some PT, get a little bit of run down in the G League. But let me just kind of target Dalton Connect for a quick second. When you think of Connect and you think of how his season started out last year, and then a lot of people are saying, hey, is this the steal of the draft? And then all of a sudden, a couple of months go by, he's not really getting that much playing time. Teams started adjusting towards what his strengths were. He's in a deal with Marc Williams. That deal gets rescinded, and then here we're sitting today. What do you make of where Dalton is in his career right now? And just kind of your thoughts on if he'll be able to resurge at least with the Lakers, if you think that's realistic.
Well, let's see here. The main issue, like his talent is shooting. And yet, based on the numbers, he can't shoot this year, right? So if your one strength is a weakness, then what do you do on the court, right? So he is not what I would call especially aware defender. There are some things he does well on defense. He's got a good size to him. There are things that he's not a zero out there on defense, but you're on a team with Luka, Austin, LeBron, who have different weaknesses, strengths as well, defensively. But like that combination and then trying to fit in Dalton Connect into that, you could see why there's no spot for him in that rotation, because this team needs to get better on defense. The offense is humming. They're scoring. It's not a perfect team offensively. Like, are there areas they need to improve upon? And that area would definitely be three-point shooting, which is what Dalton does well on paper. But because he's not executing in game and he's not defending, there's just no spot for him. So the way things are right now, I don't see how he fits into that rotation with those three star players. So something bigger would have to give, or he would have to just start hitting lights out and do enough on defense to justify being on the court. Maybe he goes to the G and just murders it to the point of like shooting like 60% or something crazy, where it's just like every shot he throws up goes in. But yeah, I do think some of his confidence, or at least his faith in the Lakers, might have been shaken. Well, I mean, that's being generous. It was shaken being traded. And so I don't think he's regained that. So it's a tough situation.
Yeah, and it's on him, right? Like I like the way that you put it. At the end of the day, if your strength is being a shooter, and all of a sudden you can't shoot, it would be the equivalent. I mean, if Vando all of a sudden can't play defense, then Vando was already having trouble getting on the floor, and this is somebody who's been in the league, and this is with a team that can't play defense, and Vando was having trouble being out there. If Vando's getting playing time and guys are just humming right by him, how do you justify? Yeah, and I'm talking about guys that have like a specific specialty in the league. That's probably the only way Knecht will get some love for the Lakers is like, hey, every time he goes out there, he hits a couple of threes for us. And then that kind of churns the momentum for Dalton Knecht. And we'll see if that's able to happen or not. But obviously some news yesterday with him going down to the G League. And like you said, maybe he murders it down there and that kind of changes some of his confidence. What does this time of the year kind of mean to you? I mentioned the December 15th date. For those that maybe don't fully understand what December 15th represents in the NBA, what does that kind of signal in your world, and what kind of starts happening, you think, around the league from that perspective of just, okay, hey, this is one barometer of a key date in the NBA that between now and the trade deadline, there's just a ton more players that are now available?
It's kind of like Thanksgiving the next day, right? That everyone starts, I mean, if you celebrate, but at least in terms of commercial America, you start to see Christmas decorations everywhere. And that's not like some hard set rule, because I went, I was somewhere out, and like this was right after Halloween, and I started to see Christmas decorations up. So it's not like a firm, like this is the day that, suddenly there's going to be 8 trades. There's typically between 0 and 2 trades on December 15th. And I would average it out to about one and a quarter every year. A player who signs over the summer, generally speaking, is movable, tradable on December 15th, not until then. So, for instance, Jake LaRavia, DeAndre Ayton, guys who signed this summer, as long as they didn't get too large of a raise. So, obviously, Ayton didn't get a raise. Smart didn't get a raise. They're newcomers to the Lakers.
Right.
Hayes got a raise, but his raise was 120%. That's within that margin. So as long as it's not above 120%, you can't be traded until December 15th. And then if it's higher than that 120%, then it's January 15th. So the bulk of the league suddenly goes from trade restricted. The bulk of players who signed, that is, over the summer, go from non-tradable to now tradable on December 15th. And like it's different for first round draft picks or second round draft picks. Like there's different 2 ways, et cetera. But in general, that's the rule. And so there's also a new rule in the new CBA from 2023, where if a player is traded December 15th, it can be aggregated on the trade deadline, which is just basically you can combine a player's salary with another player's salary. And so last year we saw a couple of trades, was it like with Thomas Bryant to the Heat, where they could then aggregate him closer to the deadline. It's a minor change, but you have your Daryl Morey types who really want to maximize every rule. And I've never seen the Lakers to be that kind of team under Rob Pelinka and the current regime, that they're like, oh, we need to maximize it and we need to rush to get a trade on December 15th. So there was no trade for the Lakers. There was no trade anywhere in the league. And the trade deadline is around the 5th. I think it's the 5th this year, February. So we'll see maybe a trade in December, maybe a few trades in January. The heart of the deadline is really the week of leading up to February 5th. And so, yeah, we should see some activity, fireworks. The NBA never seems to disappoint when it comes to activity and action. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the league's got in store for us this year.
Eric, I was reading yesterday, I was doing my show, and there were, a lot of people had their opinion. I don't even know if it's opinion, but they're also reporting. There are people that are very connected around the league. It was Chris Haynes. It was Sam Amick. It was guys were giving their opinion as well. I think Zach Lowe had, Marc Stein had something in his Substack. And a lot of these were on Giannis. And there were kind of some intertwining with potential Lakers, not potential Lakers. I guess here's what I'd like to ask you. Of all the different scenarios that are out there in regards to, hey, the Lakers, they're really going to try to get into the Giannis sweepstakes. Or the other extreme, let's say the other way, yeah, they can't get into the Giannis sweepstakes, and they'll probably just try to trade for players that maybe fit more into that Luka, Austin Reaves timeline as far as age goes. from one extreme to the other, and I know none of us know what Giannis is going to do or if he's going to demand something with the Bucks or anything like that, but just looking at it from a Laker perspective, what's most realistic, do you think, between now and the trade deadline in regards to improving the roster and also just kind of thinking of the short term, but at the same time trying to get guys that they feel like is going to be around for a few years?
By and large, like, the non-sexy answer is like the most quote realistic is usually like inertia, which is like nothing happens, right? Like that's usually more often than not a team will hold unless there's a compelling reason. So I guess there's two questions that you're the Lakers or really any team needs to decide. Is the move that you're making to go for it now, or is it to go for it later, right? Like is it to add for the future? In the future could be next year, but not right now, right? So the right now category would mean being able to beat the Thunder. My dog's going to start barking, so I'm going to get a treat here. So, she's got a green coming, right?
There you go.
There we go. Done. Can you beat the Thunder is probably, while it's not a no, it's certainly possible, right? It's just, it's a lot. And you have to be extremely confident that the move you're going to make is going to put you over the top. Now, you could argue that the opportunity to get someone like Giannis, if that were a reality, let's just say it's a reality, like boom, the specifically Giannis wants to go to LA and the Bucks are eager to give him what he wants. And that's the premise that I can't say is true. We're going to just assume that though, for the moment. That would be a combination of like, yeah, you might have a shot to win now in a team built around Luka and Giannis and LeBron, because that would cost Austin Reaves, right? So just a starting point, that's my assumption, right? Is that your starting point is you move Austin, you have to move Rui, Hachimura, probably, I wrote an article on it for Bleacher Report. Let's say that Dalton's in there and Maxey. And the way I configured it, they actually include Vanderbilt. You could do Gabe instead. Like there are different combinations. It's feasible to do. That's without giving up Ayton, Laravia, LeBron, Luka, and really you just make it work. And they have to get back to 15 players or 14 players. They probably take like a player or two from Milwaukee to make it work. So let's just say that happens. That would be sort of an effort to quote, win now, but really it's kind of like when the Mavs got Kyrie that first year, like they knew when they got Kyrie that they gave up so much that they probably weren't going to win that year. They didn't even make the playoffs that year, but then the next year they go to the finals. And so I think that would be the Lakers saying, even though Giannis is 31 and Luka's a little younger, we're confident that we can get 4 or 5 years out of Giannis. And so that timeline works. That would be the Lakers making that leap of faith that Giannis holds up physically. He's an upgrade, you would argue, from AD. So if you trade AD to get Luka and you trade Austin to get the AD improvement, you basically traded Austin to get Luka, and Austin was an undrafted player who's been incredible and is a top 10 scorer in the league. And I'm not the one here. I would argue that Lakers might feel compelled to do that. This is all on a lot of assumptions, so don't, what they say, don't at me that I'm like saying trade Austin for Giannis. I'm just walking through that path. You're killing a lot of depth, and you can arguably say that you're hurting the win now possibilities, but then you really have to take a serious look at the win now possibilities with the Lakers as they are, which, they are probably a B+ tier team in this league right now. They are a team that in the right situation with exact health and everybody clicking at the exact right moment, they could.
Things got to hit. A lot of things got to kind of go their way in that process.
Right.
Yep.
And I could point at like the San Antonio loss and say that exposed some of their weaknesses. The counter would be that, like, obviously Austin wasn't himself and is now out for a week. And so maybe his bad game was not reflective of the Spurs, because the last time they played the Spurs, Austin was a lot better. Maybe it was just, so like I try not to overreact from one game. My eye test from the moment they traded for Luka and have LeBron and Austin is that there are some defensive holes that could be a problem in the playoffs. So I don't know that I have the confidence, like, oh, you're sacrificing the win now to get Giannis. It's more like you're getting Giannis, you're getting Luka. You're arguably pairing up 2 top 5 guys in the NBA. And so you get to the summer, you do whatever you can to win this year. You get as far as you can, and then over the summer you have some flexibility to add in, probably keep Ayton, maybe add in one or 2 more pieces that are above the minimum, maybe 3 pieces above the minimum, maybe retain Smart. There's little ways of tweaking it so that you could have a team that works. And it's all predicated on Giannis wanting to be here, which is a huge leap. When we talk about other moves, you could just try to improve the weaknesses, the defense, the this, that.
Which, by the way, Eric, just to jump in real quick. So I would say this. Let's talk realistically based off of what the Lakers' needs are. And I think we all know what their needs are. You can't be a 20th ranked defense or somewhere around there defensively and be taken seriously as a true NBA, especially in the West where you're watching Houston can get stops. Denver's got incredible depth and the best player in the world. OKC, I don't need to tell you about. San Antonio, maybe there's an angle there that the Lakers, Austin Reaves wasn't healthy. They didn't have Wemby, right? So I think, we could clearly see just how good these top 4 or 5 teams are in the Western Conference. Is there a world, I think you laying out, look, this is what it would probably take to try to go get a guy like Giannis. And that's also with Giannis and the Bucks playing ball and saying that's where we want to go, and the Bucks saying, okay, we're going to give you what you're looking for. Put all that to the side. Realistically, based off of, let's say Giannis is not on the table, are there trades that you think can be made out there that are doable to just make this team more respectable from a defensive standpoint, where Austin Reaves and Luka are in your backcourt, and you got a, obviously aging LeBron James? What do you make of that angle if the Lakers go in that route?
So I would say it's a question the Lakers need to weigh with the offseason in mind. So I'll definitely focus on in season to improve for this year. But Austin, let's say that Giannis is not on the table whatsoever. Austin is a top 10 scorer in the league. And there are potential issues defensively with Austin and Luka. But I would argue that you can make a team work around Austin and Luka, but it gets harder to do Austin, Luka, and LeBron. And LeBron does defend in certain areas well, but in other areas he doesn't. So let's say this is LeBron's last year with the team. Okay. Because I think it kind of needs to be, you kind of need to look at it that way. If you're really going to build around the age range of these 2 dudes, Luka and Austin as a free agent takes up about a little bit less than 27 million on the books. There are some options. We don't know what's going to happen 100% with Ayton, who can opt out, or Smart. I would say that, let's say that Smart opts out on the agreement that he'll re-sign. So it gives you a little more cap room. They could get up to serious money, like 40-something million dollars. I mean, it might be less if Ayton needs to opt out, chooses to opt out, and let's say he needs 19, 20 million. There's a lot of questions, but the Lakers could have 20, 30, 40, maybe even more in cap room with another trade, maybe getting off of Vanderbilt, might be able to get up to really significant money. So I say that to say that they need to weigh losing that flexibility if they trade for someone who has a multiple year contract. So if we start saying, well, it's only expiring contracts, it's a different approach. So I can argue.
But Eric, if they trade for a player that kind of fills some of those needs, that clearly, if you're building around Austin Reaves and Luka Doncic and you find a player by the trade deadline that you're like, hey, he's around the same age. This is a guy that if they walked into free agency would love to have this player on the team for the next 2-3 years. Can you eat up into some of that money that you're talking about in the offseason if it checks that box?
Of course. And, I would argue that free agency itself is kind of, it's a mystery box, you know what I mean? And it's mystery box meaning you don't know what it is, but it could be great. And so you hold off on doing something that is good at the potential of something great. And teams fall for that a lot, where, there's always well, we might get more or we might do better. But the way that the rules are really geared,
and you end up with
now,
nothing.
right? Well, you end
Right.
up with whatever's available.
Less
And
than. Yeah.
yeah. Um, the reality is that the new CBA encourages extensions, and the new CBA encourages trades. There's a lot of consternation about like aprons, and it's so hard to make trades in the NBA and all that. But like the reality is it's like 20 teams are below the tax. Right now, it's technically 14, but it'll be closer to, or it's 16, but it'll get closer and closer to 20 teams below the tax by the time we get to the end of the year. So look, most teams aren't worried about aprons. Most teams are just trying to avoid the tax. And so when you're below those aprons, it's actually easier to make trades than it used to be under the previous rules. So the point being is that the league is sort of marginalizing free agency. And so like if you start going down the list of potential free agents, and we're still, the real question is like, what can they do in season? So I haven't lost track of that. But we're talking about like the mystery box. Well, like the best free agents are restricted, like Benedict Mathurin, Walker Kessler, who's hurt, Jalen Duren, Mark Williams, who has, Lakers already walked down that path, didn't like his physical, Jaden Ivey, who's hurt a lot. And then the best free agents who are unrestricted, which means that they can just go out and sign them. Like is Anthony Simons, there's no reason to go after another guard who doesn't defend that well when that's what your strength is. Same with Kobe White. You start looking at like the wings, and real quick you get to like, well, Tari Eason is restricted. He'd be a nice fit, but he's restricted, and Houston may keep him. And then it's like, hell, Rui Hachimura might be the next guy. There's LeBron, Benedict Mathurin, Tari Eason. I'm not ranking them, but at the top is Norm Powell. Norm Powell doesn't fit. I like Keon Ellis. I would argue when we start to get back to our answer, he's somebody who might make some sense. And then at the bigger positions, it's like, is there anyone jumping out that's going to be better than DeAndre Ayton, right? And we're also assuming that they don't have LeBron to do these sort of things. So, and then there are players who can opt out that, increase the list. But real quick, Austin is like the top free agent, one of the top free agents, going after like, if Andrew Wiggins opted out, like to me, that doesn't make sense. I don't think he's even going to opt out. Point is that I don't see where the answer is in that all that money. So it's probably a trade with that money, which then goes back to your point is like, if you're going to wait till the summer to make a trade to get a guy that you would go after in free agency, why wouldn't you do it now? And so,
and is that pool of players you're talking about where it's more attractive for the Lakers to try to target something strategically, just based on what's available in the offseason? It's more attractive to try to get one of these guys during the season and before the trade deadline, which could also kill two birds with one stone.
Right. Like they would have to be in love and know that, like, even though Tari Eason has missed a lot of the last few seasons, that he's like the defensive guy who would be the exact right fit.
That's our guy.
Knowing that the Rockets, with all of their salary, decide that they're not going to pay him. But, like Fred VanVleet, who's hurt, could opt out and then re-sign for less money on a 3-year deal. So that gives them a little more money. They can move out of some, but you would have to have really, really powerful intel that this is the right move. But I would say like getting the right player now via trade makes a lot more sense. But now, the challenge is price. The challenge is what contracts do you move out? And from the moving out of contracts, just to be clear, the Lakers have triggered a first apron hard cap. So what they did is by using their non-taxpayer mid-level, splitting up that $14 million on LaRavia and Ayton, and then they use their biannual, their smaller exception on Smart, they have locked in a first apron hard cap. That's at about 196. They're at about 195. So they can't, any move they make in all scenarios can't add more than $1 million. So if you trade like 3 or 4 dudes for one, you got to
go back
14. Yeah. So and that's not impossible. I figured out how they can get Giannis and all that. It's like they can make the moves. It's just not. There's just some real world financial issues. If you're saying you're not trading LeBron has no trade clause. That's not in his interest. Now, if LeBron says I want to be traded, and that's a different conversation. That's not what we're having. So assuming that Luka, Austin, and LeBron, Ayton, are like locked in stone, is not moving, then you're like, well, what's the fate of Rui Hachimura? Because that conversation, if they trade for somebody and keep Rui, then they can pay Rui and keep him, and he could stay long term. If they have to go for cap room and need that cap room, they could pay him, but that cap room might go in trade or for a free agent. I don't think Vanderbilt, I don't think JJ values Vanderbilt enough, but maybe last game reflected that JJ's recognizing that he brings something that they need. So I don't think the story is clear on who Vanderbilt is for this team. And I personally enjoy watching him play.
Sure.
Although watching him trying to finish or hit a shot, he hit a three the other day. I was like, man, I was very happy for him, but he has struggled to put the ball in the basket. He struggles with hands. There are things that are issues on offense that this is a team that is trying to outscore everybody and win by doing that. And I would argue there's a place for Vanderbilt, but I would say Vanderbilt, to an extent, Gabe, Maxey, these are, and certainly Knecht, these are pieces or players that I think they would be willing to move. And then you have to look at what, are any of those players, some team is going, oh, we got to have those guys. Sure. We're going to give you our good players to get those guys.
It seems like a lot of those, it seems like some of the players that the Lakers have, most of the interest from these teams would be cool, expiring contract or, something along those lines. Or exactly. Lakers giving up draft compensation. There's a couple other things I want to hit on, and I want to be mindful of your time here. So you mentioned LeBron, and nobody has any idea what LeBron wants to do past this year. Could I just play out a scenario for you? And what do the Lakers kind of do in a situation or predicament like this? Let's just say hypothetically, and I agree with you, and I've said this, that I don't think LeBron's coming back to the Lakers for $50+ million. Now, it doesn't mean that LeBron can't come back to the Lakers if he wants to just play another year, get into his 24th season. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But what do the Lakers do if, like you said, they're starting to plan for the future and there's the kind of vision of what they want the team to potentially look like? What do they do if LeBron wants to keep playing and wants to be a Los Angeles Laker? Just kind of, how do they approach it? Is it one of those situations where it's like, all right, well, we're willing to work with you, but whatever your paycheck was in the past, it's not going to be anything near what that is. Is there a world where LeBron does want to play in his 24th year for the Lakers, but just the contract looks wildly different?
We have to open up to all possibilities, right? So let's say that LeBron is like, I just need to finish my career. I want to be a Laker. Let's wrap it up. And the Lakers are like, cool. One possible path, because let's say that cap room is the priority.
Yeah.
And if you have 50 million going to LeBron, there is no cap room, right? That's just not a thing. So how do you improve? So what the Lakers would have is what's called the room mid-level exception. So, every team gets a mid-level exception each year. You get different flavors. The teams that go under the cap, they get the room version, room flavor. That projects to be $9 million. So what you would do is, functionally renounce the rights to LeBron, get him off your books, agree that he would come back at $9 million. And so now that cap room, he's off your cap. You then use all your cap room. And then after your cap room is spent, now you have $9 million and then you spend it on LeBron. So that is the only real feasible way if $9 million was enough for him. I don't see, like, if we went through, if we had all the time in the world, we can go through like the 5 or 6 teams that project to have cap room. Like, is he going to the Clippers and not leaving LA? I don't think that's realistic. Could he go back to Cleveland to wrap it up at home? I think that's very feasible. Could he go join AD in Dallas or go to Miami, and like there's any common, could he go to the Knicks? And if money isn't the question, let's say it's not like I need my 50, he's just going to go to finish his career. He's made enough and the minimum will be like, let's say the minimum is 4 for him, 4 million. He can go play for 4 million anywhere. And that could be, and those teams like the Cavs don't project to have any money past that. And the Knicks may not have any, but the Heat might, but I don't know if Pat Riley wants to go back that way, but let's say he does. Maybe he can get 8 million, 10 million, maybe up to 15. The mid-level projects to be 15 million. So that's like the full one for the teams that are not in those aprons. Those apron teams, they don't have that much, and the Cavs are an apron team. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think anyone knows. I don't think LeBron knows.
Sure,
I've
I agree.
heard that, like, there's at least an idea. He's done. This is not factual, but he's done his legwork to know, like, at least some possibilities. Like, that's just who LeBron is. That's who Rich Paul is. As an agent, they're very good at what they do. They don't just let the league happen to them. They go out and decide what they want to do and execute it. And that's what a good agent should do. That's what a star player should do. So I'm sure there's some level of intent on LeBron, but I think he's measuring his body, measuring his maybe his mind of and his heart of it. Like, how long do I want to do this? So, I think there's a world where he returns, but my money, not that I'm a betting man, but like, is that this is probably his last year with the Lakers. There's no anyone who's saying this is definitely this or definitely that. They don't know, because if LeBron doesn't know definitely, how do I know definitely? And anyone trying to claim some sort of not factual, but like, hey, I've heard all, and some, you mentioned a list of great reporters. They're hearing real things from real people in the industry.
Sure.
But it doesn't matter, because I talk to a lot of those same people in terms of like executives or agents, and everyone has an opinion just like you and I have. But do they know what's going to happen? If LeBron doesn't know what's going to happen, that's of course not.
Eric, phenomenal stuff. Great stuff. I know we saw each other at the last, which game did we see each other at? It was Lakers Spurs. I think it was Lakers Spurs. And yeah, I think it was the quarterfinals, and we were talking about trying to get back together, but always really, really good content. I know the listeners appreciate it as well. So thank you for coming on. I appreciate the insight. Enjoy some of these conversations. As we get closer to the trade deadline, would love to have you back on.
All right, yeah, and thanks for having me. And if you don't mind me just throwing one quick plug.
Yes.
Sports Business Classroom, we've added an all-star program, which is in LA at All Stars. So if you're going to be in LA in February, or if you want to come to LA in February, just look up Sports Business Classroom. It's going to be an incredible program. I run it with Bobby Marks, and we have a great time, and we help people break into basketball. And just to help get out, use the code Sliwa right now. Just put that in the app if you're interested. Reach out to me privately. I'm easy to find. But if you put in that, then we'll make sure that we flag your application, and I'll personally make sure that we look at it and put it higher up, because we don't let everybody in. It's something that we vet to make sure we have high quality, people who are serious. So this is not fantasy camp. This is, people serious about trying to break into the NBA ecosystem.
Well, send me a link, and then let me I'll put the link in this video, and people can click on it. And what a great way. Like you said, if somebody's trying to crack into the business, and you got somebody like Eric Pincus or Bobby Marks, who was a guest, I think a week and a half ago on the show, to kind of learn from some of the best in the business, phenomenal. So please send me that link, and I'll put it in the description when we're done with the video.
All right. Appreciate you. Anytime.
Okay. Thank you. That's Eric Pincus right there. Good stuff. Eric Pincus delivering. That's fun to have him on. It's obviously it's a great time of the year right now too, where we get past that December 15th date. So a lot of these conversations now are very, very relevant. So I will make sure to put that link that Eric was just talking about. And if there's anything there that you guys want to go out on your own to go join that conference, I encourage you guys to do so. Okay, so I think there's a couple angles we could take from what Eric was just talking about. And I want to definitely do so. I think the LeBron thing is very interesting. I think how you're kind of trying to build around this team and keeping the present in the future, or the present in mind as well as the future, I think that's interesting as well. He said something about Vando. I think the Vando piece of him saying that, I don't know if JJ Redick really believes in Vando, and I think actions speak louder than words, and I think there's a little bit of that as well. So something to keep in mind in regards to that. So let's hit on most of these topics. I got a lot of comments that are waiting for me as well, and we're already 50 minutes into the show. Before I do so, I told you guys yesterday we're introducing a new partner to Hoops Talk, and certainly the morning show, the post-game show as well. Shout out to Harris Resort SoCal. I got here's my pitch about Harris. If you're in Southern California and you're looking for a place to just kind of get away, and yes, there's a lot of wonderful, wonderful properties and resorts and casinos all over Southern California. I'll tell you a little bit about Harris SoCal. They are located in North San Diego County. Valley Center is the area. Incredibly beautiful. So much land. Like if you're trying to just kind of get away, I want to get away from the hustle. I want to get away from all the street lights and everything else. Harris Resort SoCal. If you've never been out there before, it really truly is one of the most beautiful resorts in all of SoCal. I'll tell you a little bit about them. And then I've stayed there personally. I did a show from there probably about, I think 3 months ago, maybe 4 months ago, something along those lines. I think it was towards the end of the summer. I'll tell you a little bit about the property. 1,500 slots, 50 table games if you're somebody that certainly is interested in playing when you go to a casino. Something to know about the actual resort. 4th largest hotel in San Diego County. 1,087 luxurious rooms and suites. If you're a foodie, if you're somebody that loves, hey, I'd like to go to places, I like to eat, I like to try different restaurants around Southern California, Gordon Ramsay's largest Hell's Kitchen brings the heat to Harris Resort, Southern California, adding some hot awards to its already winning experience. So everybody knows Gordon Ramsay. Everybody knows Hell's Kitchen. When I was there, I will say I did have dinner there. Phenomenal restaurant. So there's a website here, harrissocal.com, if you want to book a stay there. And I just encourage anybody that's looking for a weekend getaway or just trying to get away from the hustle for a couple of days and you want to call it a staycation and you're in SoCal, harrissocal.com, harrissocal.com. All right, let's keep going here. Got to look at some of the comments here. A lot of comments. We have cap space after this season and beyond. Okay. All right, let's keep going here. Let's see what we got here. Somebody saying do the math. And Luka and Austin had never been all defensive team. I got people arguing against each other. We got people going at it. Giannis is preoccupied with optics. Okay, let me just say this real quick about what Pincus was saying in regards to LeBron. Nobody knows what he's going to do. But you don't need to know what LeBron's going to do to have a good idea of what you think the Lakers are going to do. Here's what I think the Lakers won't do. I don't think the Lakers are giving LeBron another 50 and change after this season. I think his path that he mentioned, hey, LeBron still wants to be a Laker. He wants to play after this season. And the creativity of, he mentioned that $9 million Lakers can go spend their cap space and then come back to LeBron after and give him that $9 million. That's interesting. There's also the piece of this that, let's say LeBron still wants to play and still wants to get paid. I don't think it's going to be with the Lakers. I do think the Lakers are much closer to building around Luka and Austin Reaves with LeBron out of the picture than LeBron still in the picture next season and continuing to build with Luka and Reaves. I mentioned this to you guys earlier in the show, and I said I was going to come back to this. There was an article, like I mentioned, Substack Marc Stein in his report. League sources say that the Lakers would naturally like to be in the 3-and-D market this trade season. Very limited market. They mentioned a couple of the names. But here's the part that I took away from what Marc Stein said over the weekend. And whether you guys agree with this or disagree with this, I do think there's a lot of truth to this. Generally speaking, my read on the Lakers' preferences is they would like to target players in the same age range as stars Luka, who's 26, Austin Reaves, who's 27, as they continue building out the roster around them, as opposed to surrendering prime trade assets for 30-somethings. Now, if Giannis is on the table, maybe that changes, but this just gives you an idea. And then Marc Stein said something. Look what they did in the offseason. DeAndre Ayton's 27, Jake LaRavia is 24. Now, you could say, well, Marcus Smart's older as well, but there was no risk in grabbing Marcus Smart. It wasn't a long-term contract. Building around Luka and Austin Reaves for the future. Guys, I really do think that that's the plan for the Lakers right now. And I do think that they're going to try to get younger. I do think they're going to try to get bigger, athletic, all that stuff. None of that stuff can really happen unless it's in some type of a trade. And you heard Pincus talking about what's available next summer, that they're probably better off trying to improve the roster for the present and the future before the trade deadline. So whether you like that game plan or you don't, I think the Lakers are giving a lot of signals that, yeah, Reaves is going to be here. We're going to re-sign Austin Reaves. Now, whether that is the ultimate game plan or not, that's what the Lakers are going to give off as far as a perception goes. And I do think they like Austin Reaves. Like I said, we've had this conversation before. I think they are a fan of Austin Reaves. The question is just going to be, can you put together a roster with Austin Reaves, with Luka Doncic that you think can compete for a championship over the next 3, 4, 5 years? That's going to be the challenge of the front office. But what they're never going to tell you is, yeah, we don't think that Reaves-Luka combination is going to work. Nope. Re-sign Austin Reaves. Let this man continue to grow, homegrown from the Los Angeles Lakers. And then if you got to make a move at some point, then they'll cross that bridge when they get there. So good stuff from Pincus. Very good stuff from Pincus there. I think that kind of brought up some interesting conversations based off of some of the stuff that he said. Love it or hate it, Reaves isn't going anywhere. Again, listen, unless here's something that I know the Lakers aren't going to do. They're not going to, at any point, say anything that does not draw interest to how much they love Austin Reaves. That doesn't mean Austin Reaves can't get traded at some point. That doesn't mean that there isn't a player out there that, and I think new ownership would also have a lot to do with this. Does it feel like new ownership would have this maybe loyalty towards a player like the Buss family might have? I do think that there's a little bit from new ownership that, yeah, this is just going to be kind of all about business. What do you got to do to go out there and try to compete for an NBA championship? And if there was a package out there that made sense for Austin Reaves, I think new ownership would say, awesome. Okay, this gets us a little bit closer to what our goal is. Where I think the previous regime probably is sitting back and saying, no, we love Austin Reaves, this, that. I do think there's going to be a little bit more with new ownership, that it's going to be more about business and a chance to compete for a championship, which is also really good for business. So I do think there's a little bit of that. Let me see what else we got. What if the Lakers make 3 to 4 player trades like in 22 deadline, make the Western Conference, but this time win it all, and LeBron was a reason to win it all? I mean, listen, winning it all is tough to have that conversation right now, just because you know that defensively for the Lakers are a little bit behind. I want to read one more here, and then I want to go into one thing on Vando. I'm going to save the JJ Redick this season, what people think. I'm going to do that on Thursday. I'm going to have Marc Medina on Thursday. Let's save that one because we're already kind of getting towards the end of the show, and I still got some NBA stuff that I want to hit on. I mean, for Giannis, trade him, but I'm telling you, Walter liked the chemistry. Yeah, there's no knowing. I don't think there's a way of knowing what Mark Walter and the group wants, but I will tell you this. A message was sent in the offseason when they didn't give LeBron another extension. Of course it was. And by the way, why would you give LeBron another extension? Again, that takes me back to old ownership, something old ownership would do. I think new ownership is like, yeah, that just doesn't make sense. We're not going to do that. Yeah, by the way, we also have Luka, so we don't have to kind of cater towards LeBron. I think that has a lot to do with it as well. You know what? One other thing that I'll bring up from our conversation with Pincus, he said that I'm not really sure if JJ Redick believes in Vando. I think actions speak louder than words. And I think what Vando just made a case for, by the way, before Vando even got any of this playing time in the last game, people were already starting to have the conversation of like, hey, you should probably use Vando a little bit more. That conversation was already being had. And then watching what Vando just did against the Phoenix Suns, that's only going to get louder. So I think this will be a kind of a good test for JJ Redick. Is it a stubborn JJ Redick that's like, nah, I already got my guys? Or is it a JJ Redick that's like, look, we're having trouble defensively. We played Jared Vanderbilt and we had some success with him. Then we're going to continue to kind of go back to that well, unless it doesn't make any sense. So I think that'll be interesting to kind of see how that unfolds when they play Utah, when they play the Clippers, when they play some of these other games. But I think Vando has worked his way back into the conversation as he should have. And I think Vando has put himself in a position where, at least from a coaching staff perspective, when you're the 20th ranked team in the NBA on defense, play some defenders, play some of your youth, play some of these younger players that you have, because certainly defense and I don't know, fresh legs, if you want to say, there are some things that are missing from the Lakers so far this season. All right, let's need to test Vando's limits. Yeah, and like I said, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like the Lakers are. It's not like they've put themselves in a position where there's lineups out there where you're like, yeah, this lineup's going to kill it every single night. They are 18-7. I'll give the Lakers that. They're definitely 18-7. I know that record doesn't say everything, but it says something. It means they're top 4, top 5 in the Western Conference. Now, you know, whether that ultimately means anything or not, we'll have to wait and see. But the more teams they play that are talented, that are above 500, the more we're going to learn about the Lakers. All right, we got some NBA news. Thank you for being here, by the way. Please subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for hanging out. Mentioned to you guys that I'm not in the studio the last couple of days, so improvising here. But I won't stop doing the show. Other than tomorrow. I mentioned to everybody, tomorrow I'm taking the day off, so no show tomorrow. I'm back on Thursday. So Marc Medina on Thursday, members show coming up on Friday, post-game show coming up on Thursday as well. So we'll have a fun rest of the week planned and looking forward to hanging out with everybody. All right, NBA Cup Finals tonight. What the hell are you guys doing tonight? Tell me you're watching the Knicks and the Spurs tonight. You know, I mentioned that the NBA Cup has grown on me, that I think it has grown around the NBA fans and circles. Here are the only things I don't like about the NBA Cup. Stop telling me these guys are playing for 500 G's. I don't care. Guys are multimillionaires. I love they're like, oh, you know, you should watch the game because the guys are playing for 500,000. I'm like, what the hell? They're what do I care that they're playing for more money? That's not a selling point, I think, for consumers. What I do like about it is you get some very unique matchups early in the season. I loved watching the Oklahoma City Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs go up against each other on a Saturday night. I thought that was phenomenal. I think tonight's going to be cool. A Knicks San Antonio Spurs game this early in the season. The Knicks, who should definitely be in the Eastern Conference Finals at minimum based on the squad that they have, the talent that they have. And then the San Antonio Spurs team that's starting to flex their muscle in the Western Conference that nobody really thought they would be this far ahead this early, get past the Oklahoma City Thunder. Wemby had some great quotes after the game. I'm looking forward to tonight's game. That should be fun. That's what I look forward to in the NBA Cup. I think it's it puts together some good competition early on. I think some of these guys do genuinely want to win this game. So I think it's going to be fun from that perspective. I'm looking forward to it. NBA Cup Finals tonight. What time is the game at? By the way, it's the lone game tonight. That's it. That's all you got in the NBA tonight. What time are they playing this game? I want to double check here. 5:30 tip-off. T-Mobile Arena. So get off your ass at 5:30 and watch a little NBA. Tomorrow, by the way, they got two games. Cavs and the Bulls, Grizzlies and the Timberwolves. And then Thursday, everybody else kind of starts working their way back. Okay, if you were watching the NBA yesterday as well, I got a couple of things from NBA news perspective that I'm going to share real quick. Cooper Flagg. Mavericks Cooper Flagg, youngest in NBA history to score 40. He had 42 points yesterday, topping the previous mark of 37 set by LeBron James on December 13th, 2003. Cooper Flagg said after the game, obviously we didn't win, so it's tough for me to want to be happy or any of that, but obviously it's a success. Good quote from Cooper Flagg. You lose the game, you talk about losing the game first, and but he did accomplish something that's obviously incredible. It's great. He says, I've come a long way from the start of the season, so I'm proud of that fourth quarter. It's a new game. What do you do in the fourth? Went 15 to 20, it looks like, from the free throw line. So Good stuff from him. Cooper Flagg breaking some records here. Youngest player ever to drop 40+. Pretty cool story from there. One other NBA story that I got. I'll read a couple of comments, then we'll call it a day. Rockets' Ime Udoka lashes out at officials after the overtime loss. What'd he say? This is what Ime Udoka said. Just in general, I think most poorly officiated game I've seen in a long time. Officials Natalie Sago and Jamil Rawls have no business being out there. Oh, damn. And crew chief Zach Zarba was acting starstruck. You're seeing all kind of inconsistent calls, and I'm sure we should have gotten a few more texts. I like it. You know, one thing I do like about Ime Udoka? First off, he's a phenomenal coach, a really, really good coach. But the man is not worried to speak his mind. He just went after the whole crew. Went after that whole crew there in Denver. I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch that game, but a phenomenal game to watch. You got two of the top teams in the Western Conference going at it. Something that's most impressive to me in regards to the Denver Nuggets, without Aaron Gordon, without Christian Brown didn't play. I think Peyton Watson didn't play in the second half. They still beat the Houston Rockets. So they got a lot of guys. I mean, Tim Hardaway Jr., outside of the freaking stars, which the stars are Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, how good he is in the postseason, how clutch he is in the postseason. Laker fans obviously know all about that. And outside of Aaron Gordon, who's probably one of the more underrated players in the NBA, I think Aaron Gordon's incredible. They got depth. They got players. They still beat the Houston Rockets. Now, according to Ime Udoka, they got a little bit of help in that process. The other really good game that was on yesterday that was really good were the Pistons and the Boston Celtics. Detroit ends up winning at Boston. So Pistons get another win as well. So, by the way, just to kind of take a look here, because I'm curious on this, as we get ready for the NBA Cup tonight, here are the standings. Pistons atop the entire NBA, 21-5. Knicks second, or not atop the NBA, atop the Eastern Conference. Knicks second at 18-7. And then there's a little bit of gap between where the Raptors are, the Celtics, a couple of these other teams. So the game tonight does not go towards your regular season. So whoever wins, you don't get a W in the standings. Whoever loses, you don't get an L in the standings. And then in the West, OKC 24-2, then Denver at 19-6. And then you got three teams all kind of clumped together. Lakers, Spurs, and the Rockets all within one game of each other. Minnesota playing some good ball too. They're 17-9 as well. Okay, a couple of comments and then we're done. Let's see what we got here. Lakers versus Rockets Christmas Day. Yeah, I see a lot of people on here talking about Ime Udoka. It's a good coach. Very, very good coach. That guy is a perfect example of you put a good coach out there, changes everything. Go look at some of these teams in the NFL right now that 2 years ago were trash, and they went out there and they got a good coach, and then all of a sudden it changes. Guys, coaching is everything. And by the way, listen, got to give JJ Redick credit as well, because if coaching is everything, the Lakers the last couple of years have changed, at least in the regular season, and JJ's got something to do with that. And I'm not telling you that he's perfect or anything like that. Jokic flops more than SGA and any Laker combined and never gets hate. Jokic got a little flopping in him. There is something about that. If the media likes you and the players like you, they don't talk about it as much. I think there's some truth to that. I do. Congratulations on the Harris partnership. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. You know, this is kind of all part of the ecosystem of also working with iHeart and the iHeart Radio network, but I get to kind of just continue doing my own thing, focus on the show, and then now this kind of helps from a business perspective of continuing to try to make this a day-to-day business. Okay, a couple more. We're going to go to a $110 today. Jaylen Brown is playing great. Jaylen Brown's a phenomenal player. Nuggets are a good team. I'd say a great team. I'd say top two in the Western Conference. Top two in the Western Conference. All right. Final thing I got here, and then we're going to get out of here. No show tomorrow. Again, I'm going to take the day off tomorrow, so no show. unless something changes. But I think tomorrow I'm gonna go no show, which means Thursday I'm back on at 8 a.m. Marc Medina will join the show on Thursday. Looking forward to talking with him. Lakers will have a game on Thursday night. They'll take on the Utah Jazz, and we could start getting back into the rhythm of reacting to games and everything else, which will be nice to do so. Shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace firm. Thank you to Harris Resort SoCal, our partners for the show. Thank you to everybody who spent some time on the show. If you do have interest in that sports business conference that Eric Pincus was talking about, when the show ends, the timestamp that I'm doing, I'll put the link in there as well. It's going to be an event in Los Angeles, and definitely want to try to help raise awareness for what Eric Pincus is doing with Bobby Marc. So thank you, everybody, for being a part of the show. I'll see you guys Thursday morning at 8 a.m. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you on Thursday. Enjoy the NBA Cup tonight.